Every time I speak on race and inequality, women's health, fitness, anything, I get huge backlash, and it's from white people, but also my own. Time is money, so spend yours listening to me talk about things that are important to me and my people.
Time is money.
Okay, this is something new that I have not done before. I'm very nervous. I'm a little bit uncomfortable, but we're here now. First of all, hello and welcome to everyone who is listening to this. You probably saw the little notification. You're thinking, oh, Maya's Minutes. Oh, new series. Okay, I know this. But it's not the case. I'm here with a minisode. Let me give you a bit of background on how we got here. As you know, if you are a subscriber and you are an avid Maya's Minutes stan, my whole show is all about series with episodic content. So that means I have a series with an umbrella topic, and then every episode in that series goes in a little bit deeper. I wanted to have this concept for this show because I just was so bored of listening to podcasts where the topic was really good, the guest was really good, the flow was great, but it's on a topic I really care about and there's just no more information. And I don't want to go and watch a YouTube video. I don't want to go and read a book. I want to keep listening to these people speak about it, or person. And I can't because they're done. An hour and they're out. So I thought, let me do something a little bit different. I'm going to be a bit niche and I'm going to create incredible content for series with an expert guest for that whole series and talk on something. And it worked really well. However, as you know, if you're a content creator or a content consumer of this ilk, that takes time, energy, and money. There is typically a 2 to 3 month gap between each of my series. And yes, we wait every time Viola Davis drops a film, we're like, oh, amazing. And we don't stop loving her just because it's another year or two before she drops something else. However, she stays relevant. She stays in her relevant bag. And I just feel like I haven't been doing that with Maya's Minutes. And I went to go see my girl Miranda, who you'll know from series 6. If you haven't listened, go check it out. And we were doing a little vision boarding session, 2 podcasters in the Northwest. That's where she lives, Blackpool. And I was really going in on her and I was like, right, what's your hopes? What's your dreams for her podcast, the Nappy Hour pod, which you should go check out if you haven't already. And she was giving it back to me. She was like, go on, what are yours? And I was saying them and I was saying, right, this is what I want. This is how many subscribers I want. This is how many listens I want. This is how much engagement I want. This is what I want to do with Maya's Minutes. These are the people I want to be representing for. And then she was like, okay, you're not going to like what I'm going to say. And I was like, oh God. Because anything that you love, anything that's your baby, hearing constructive criticism about it is hard. And it's something that I'm still working on getting better at because I haven't been so good at it previously. I'll be honest with you. I've really just kicked off if anyone said a word about anything I do. I'm like, yo, you don't understand anyway. But I didn't have the option here because Miranda really does know what she's doing. She's a content creator herself. She's a podcaster. Like any avenue I tried to find into why her opinion was irrelevant, there was no answer. So I had to listen basically. And she said, I am a listener. I'm a lover of Maya's Minutes. I'm a subscriber. You're talking to your demographic right now. And I am waiting and I'm frustrated because in between the series, I just want a taste of something. And this is the thing. I struggle to create good, engaging TikTok and Instagram content because I'm a chatterbox, chatty patty Maya. I can't just keep it to a minute or 30 seconds. That's really hard for me. And that's why podcasting is an avenue for me, and that's why I love it so much, because I've got a lot to say. And on these social media channels, I can't just whittle down what I'm saying, which is this really important thing on race or women's health or exercise or something fantastic. I can't whittle it down to 30 seconds. I really struggle to do that. Long form content, that's all me. So this is the first minisode. I'm going to try and keep it peppy and mini, but as I said, that is hard for me. And every episode is just going to be a weekly insight into ramblings in my own brain, things I'm working on, things I want to recommend, things I think we should be talking about. It's going to be very Maya's Minutes series-esque and probably offshoots of all of the things I've already spoken about with my series. I will still be dropping my series, but these are just weekly bites to keep you going until each series comes out. As per usual, please, if you are new here or you are not subscribed here, that's the first thing you got to do. In fact, I'm just going to give you a little pause to go do that. There you go. Please, a subscribe, a review, a rate, a reshare. Honestly, it all does mean a lot. In this content creating thankless world where it's all about essentially getting naked online, if you aren't doing that, it's very hard to grow yourself and grow your platform. And every time I get a review, a reshare, a subscribe, all of that, it really does make a difference. So I really, really appreciate it, and thank you for doing that already. Anyway, I think the reason that I was getting a bit in my own head about this is because I'm very much a do it and see what happens kind of gal. I do not care about aesthetics, and I actually struggle when people ask me like, what do you think of this? Do you think that looks nice? Because for me, all my brain cares about is functionality. Like, does it work? Brilliant, let's go with that. Do you know what I mean? I apply that to everything that I do. So in terms of my content, it's the same thing. Like, there are some girls who are so in their aesthetic bag, and guys, where everything is planned, everything is beautiful, all the visuals are stunning, and that's just not me. I'm a scrappy kind of gal. I let it out, I put it out there, it's raw, it's good, it's real, and we go from there. So this is not the finished product, and every minisode is going to improve, but this is the first one, so just bear with me, you know, just work with me and walk with me on the journey. So I'm recording this on Monday, the 15th of July 2024. The date is relevant because yesterday was the final of the Euros, England versus Spain. If I'm honest, I did get a bit caught up. I'm not normally a football girl. The sight of an England flag terrifies me, and the pub environment is horrendous for me. But when it's the Euros, or when it's the World Cup, or when England are at all in the running, the person I live with, who's my boyfriend, partner, long-term love, loses his mind. He just goes mad. And unfortunately, because I live with him, I then get second-hand excitement. So I wasn't in it, and then I think he had the knockout game on the TV at home, and I wasn't really paying attention, and then I got a bit gripped, and I was like, okay, cool. Then the next one was the semi-final. That was on a Saturday, and I was on my way home, and I called him just to see like where he was and stuff, and he was like, oh, I'm at the pub, I'm watching it, you might as well come. And I wasn't far, it was like a nice day, and I just said, oh, fuck it. Little did I expect to be the one screaming and shouting the hardest and really, really involved. So that sort of sealed the deal. So then it's the semi-final now. Didn't need any encouragement, even brought a friend to the pub, and just like lost myself. I just thought it was great, and it was so fun, and I was like, okay, brilliant. So that was that. And then the final was yesterday, and he's not here, he's actually on a stag do, and so it wasn't going to be the same vibe. I was just like, oh, I'm not going to the pub, but I'm obviously still watching it. Now, there was a side of me that actually thought England could bring it home, and I thought that because we have managed with some trick or something to get this far. And don't get me wrong, these are some of the best players in the world, so you'd hope so. I was like, this could actually come home. And if it did, I was even more enticed by the hope of a bank holiday. As you will know by now, England did not bring it home. Spain took the crown, and shock horror, they're a great team. They did it. The reason I've steered away from football in my adult years is because as I've become older, I have become more aware of how racist the sport is. I was always aware of it as a kid because I was told by my parents, but then as I got older, it got even more prevalent and obvious. My interest started to peak again as the players became blacker and blacker. Like the team soon is going to be all black players, and I am here for it because it is harder to justify your racism if you are cheering and you have a t-shirt on your back that says Saka. Like, it's harder to do. They still manage to, but it is still harder. It is also quite terrifying, and I think a lot of people of colour will really understand what I'm saying, and this will resonate with you because football is political, football is racist, football is scary. Like that, it's just it. Let alone England fans. God, they're the worst ones. It was the World Cup where England was actually somewhere quite far in and they could have had a chance, and then there was penalties, and it was Saka, Rashford and maybe one other black player, and they missed, and the vitriol hate they got the next day was just astounding. And it was about 3 years ago, because I remember I was in my first tech job, and I remember someone on a call the next day bringing it up. We were like delivering something from a tech perspective, and the client was like, well, there's a lot of excuses here. There's more excuses than why the England team didn't make the nationals, didn't qualify, or whatever they said. And I was just like, oh God. There was definitely undertones, and not even undertones, there was obvious blatant racism as well. So it just shows me how quickly things can get racist when you are following football. You want to cheer and you want to be part of it, and if you are a person of colour, seeing that many black players, you're like, wow, this is exciting. Yes, they could bring it home, and if they do bring it home, then surely there would be an alleviation of the racism. That's your hope anyway, and it can all just go the other way. Anyway, I was scrolling on Instagram last night. I came across a girl post, the audacity of people complaining about England whilst living in England. Get out of here. And I was just so triggered. And I just thought, probably because I'm on edge about how racist things can get. And I remember when, you know, it got really bad that time and how horrible people are. It triggered me. So I messaged her straight away, and I was just like, it's a bit hard to go home or get out of here when you aren't even here because you want to be here. A lot of people have escaped war-torn countries to come to England in the hopes of a better life. And when the reason they're in a war-torn country is typically, usually at the hands of the West and colonisers such as Britain. So it's not a straightforward thing as if you live in England, you can't complain about England and then you should get out of here. Like, no. Obviously, I knew she was talking about the football, and I interpreted it as people who live in England, regardless of your background, you should be supporting the England football team and you shouldn't be complaining about it at all. And that was the side I was coming from. But also, plainly, those words are very cutting if you are not even watching football, but you're just in England, not because you potentially want to be, but you have to be. Obviously, you can complain about England because you didn't want to be here. It wasn't your fault that you can't stay in your home country where you wanted to be. And that is very true of most immigrant people, where they actually didn't want to leave where they're from and they would love to go home if they could, but they can't. It just pissed me off. And then she proceeded to come back to me being like, oh, no, I didn't mean that, as people normally do when you call them out. And the reason I was so angry was because this is a girl who is a white girl. She has exclusively dated black or ethnic men. And this is a problem with quote unquote our men, because you are dating these girls who are essentially fetishizing you, and you are not patterning them when it comes to racism. You're not breaking their ignorance. You're not making them see that, yes, you can have the thrill of being with me, but you also need to be aware of your actions and things you say and your position as a white woman. People just that is the missing bit, and that's a whole other topic that involves self-hate, colonization, internalized racism. All of these things is included there, but it just made me furious, and it was just an example of how it can very quickly go left after you're on a high from watching the game. Obviously I wasn't on a high because England lost, but you know, it's just so quick to go. And that then pushed me to a further realisation I've had recently. So I was listening to the Closet Confessions, another great podcast you should definitely listen to. If this is your kind of speed, listen to that podcast because you will love it. And they were talking about Amanda Seales, who is in Insecure, and she's actually a political activist, and she speaks a lot on race and really important things. I didn't know that about her until my boyfriend showed me, but I just knew her from Insecure and I thought she was great there. There was something that happened a while ago where she came out and said, I'm never included or invited or welcomed in these black spaces. I'm there for work, but I'm never invited on a personal level. And I don't get why. All I do is try to give myself to the community and to the people, essentially, and I just get hate back. The conclusion that the host of Closet Confessions came to was that the problem that people have with her is that she doesn't look like the people she is speaking up for. And that really rang true with me, because I was like, yeah, obviously I'm not famous, so I don't get as much hate as that. But every time I speak on race and inequality, women's health, fitness, anything, I get huge backlash. And it's from white people, but also my own. They're just like, why are you talking about this? Why do you need to say this? Blah, 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 blah. And by my own, if you don't know, if you are new here, my mum is Punjabi and my dad's from Trinidad. So I had a bit of a unique experience growing up in terms of understanding different cultures and understanding racism, really. If you want to know what I look like, go on my social medias, they're all linked here. Growing up, I'm 28 now, so when I was like young, like 7 and above, when you start becoming aware that you're not white and stuff, I didn't meet anyone who had the same background as me. It was a little bit more common to be a mix of black and white. Caribbean and English, or African and English, was a little bit more common, but Asian and Caribbean was very new on the books. Now I speak to and I see so many more people, but at the time there were none. So it's very interesting when you're that kind of background, like a quite a niche mix or heritage, because you have exposure and access to things that not a lot of people will see. So if I wasn't being discriminated against or soaking up ignorances towards Caribbean people, I was hearing it towards Asian people. And if I was in an Asian environment, they would look at me and not really be able to place me or know where I was from, but they definitely wouldn't think I was half Trini, and then they would be open with their anti-blackness and their isms towards black people. And then equally, if I was in a really Caribbean or black environment, the same towards Asian. So you get it from all angles. And on the other hand, I'm very Eurocentric, palatable. I've got lighter skin, I've got soft hair, I meet the pretty Eurocentric standards, I'm not overweight, I am palatable. That's the best way to put it, I'm palatable. So therefore, I would be invited into white environments as well. And in some cases, I had no choice because I lived in a white area for a big chunk of my life. And you would then, again, you'd soak up and you would hear how they really think and what they really say, and, oh, it's not you, but it's the others, and stuff like that. And it's so interesting coming back to Amanda Seales, because it's that she isn't indicative of the anger that she's speaking of. If you look at her, she's a pretty light-skinned woman, and it doesn't seem that a pretty light-skinned woman should speak about things that quote-unquote don't concern her. And I've got a lot to say about that, because based on everything I'm saying, that's exactly how I'm feeling about this. And this is, I guess, a good place to start with this minisode, because this is the kind of stuff you're going to get from me. And if at this point you're like, oh my god, I wouldn't say leave straight away. I would say go and listen to the other series, because the other series are less about me and they're more about the subject matter that we're speaking on. However, it is going to have me as well. So if this is not really your speed, I get it. If you could leave me a review on the way, that would be great. But if you need to leave, I get it. So yeah, I feel like I'm very much in my Amanda Seales era. Like, she's getting hate because people think, why are you talking about something that you're too pretty and too light-skinned to experience? Why are you mad? But I was speaking to my friend Miranda about this, and I was explaining everything I just said to you guys. And she was saying, which is completely accurate, then you should speak about it even more. Because if you aren't in a position where you are, I guess, facing and living the realities of the most marginalised, but you are still marginalised to an extent, and especially in a white group, you are, the odd one out, you're going to have more exposure to everything, and you're going to understand things from a whole different plane. And also, you aren't in as much danger as others, so you can speak on these things. You are using your privilege to raise awareness on these things, and you are doing it in a way which is palatable for people, because you don't fit the stereotype of the quote-unquote angry black woman, so they actually might listen to you a bit more. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. That was really unplanned, and it was a lot of word vomit, and I've just looked down and I've been speaking for 21 minutes. This is what I mean. This is why I cannot blow on TikTok, because TikTok's a minute and I've just spoken for 20, and all I was supposed to do was intro these minisodes, but here you are. So ponder on that, let me know what you think, chat to me, let's get a conversation going. The whole premise of Maya's Minute is about thought provocation. We aren't in a society anymore, in my opinion, where there's enough proper important conversations going on. They exist and we have more access to them, but I think that makes people think we don't need to have them ourselves. I think, no, we need to be having them ourselves. We need to be talking to our peers about these kind of things. And I think that's why I'm happy about these minisodes. If you are really interested in how politics and race and class overlap, I would recommend listening to series 2 that I did with my girl Basayo. I'm going to be releasing a minisode every Monday. When there is a series, then you will get these series every Monday. But Monday, Maya's Minutes, alliteration, we love it. I hope to see you here for the next one next week. I hope that you get in touch and chatting to me on the socials and reviewing and resharing and subscribing before then. And if you are new here, welcome and nice to have you. I will see you next week. Bye.